cold moonlight drenched the majestic estate in a ghostly glow. The silence of the night was heavy, suffocating enough to stop a beating heart. Lavinia stood alone in the grand hall, trembling as she whispered, "Why is it you?" Footsteps echoed closer, draining the last drop of color from her face. Fear and betrayal tightened like a noose around her heart. A sharp blade pierced flesh, followed by a sickening thud, and crimson sprayed through the air. Lavinia's phoenix blue eyes widened, frozen in absolute shock. Crimson droplets stained her porcelain skin like tears of blood. Moonlight streamed through the window, revealing a sinister figure cloaked in shadows. The assassin gripped a short sword dripping with life force. Lavinia clutched the wound on her chest, red warmth spilling uncontrollably through her fingers. Her breath came in ragged gasps as her vision blurred. The man discarded his blade on the floor and turned his back without a second glance. Lavinia collapsed, her body twitching on the freezing stone. As the light of life extinguished, a final thought echoed, "You all betrayed me." In that moment, a book titled The Palace of Splendor and Betrayal quietly surfaced in her fading consciousness. It was a tale of high-stakes palace intrigue. A court lady named Alice served as the narrator, transforming into a genius detective. Alice stepped onto the center stage of politics. But the key figure of this story was the villainous queen, Lavinia. Yet, Lavinia was once a talented monarch, deeply beloved by her people. She once smiled with infinite gentleness, accepting a flower crown from a young girl's hands. However, the rose that symbolized her reign began to wither, petals fell, and her rule turned into a nightmare of tyranny. Blood flowed like rivers beneath the guillotine as hatred for the queen peaked. Finally, a trusted aide assassinated her, and the novel abruptly ended there. The true identity of the killer remained a mystery. Such was the tragic fate of the villainous queen, Lavinia. In this story, we are exactly alike. In her previous life, she started a business with friends. Everything was smooth. Success was right there on the horizon. But then, the image of a man shaking hands with an elder flashed in her mind. A triumphant smirk twisted his face. She hadn't realized the contract was a trap and signed it blindly. She never dreamed he would conspire with outsiders to destroy her. Just like that, her company was stolen. Betrayed by the subordinate she trusted most, the rage was consuming. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Where did she go wrong? Suddenly, blinding headlights swallowed her whole as a truck roared forward. If she had tried to understand others just a little more, would her ending have been different? A magnificent white palace towered under the azure sky. Lavinia opened her eyes. Where am I? Two knights blocked her path with cold expressions. Lavinia themed it. The queen. Was her? Lavinia looked up in confusion. What? A knight raised his sword high. You witch who bewitched this nation, today is your end. Lavinia's pupils constricted in terror. What was going on? She squeezed her eyes shut, resigning herself to this sudden, cruel fate. But the strike never came. No pain. She cautiously opened her eyes, clutching her chest, her heart still pounding wildly. A deep, warm voice resonated. Apologies, I am late. Lavinia froze as a man gazed intently at her. Your Majesty, are you unharmed? The knight sprawling on the ground gasped in horror. It's the Black Knight. Duke Pandin. Duke Pandin's eyes were cold as ice. He unsheathed his blade, a single flash of silver, and blood sprayed through the air. In a heartbeat, the surrounding knights were decimated. He scanned the area, making no effort to hide the lethal killing intent burning in his eyes. Lavinia witnessed the slaughter firsthand. Through the mist of blood, she panicked. What on earth was happening? Duke Pandin walked toward her and dropped to one knee. Your Majesty, I am Duke Pandin. Forgive my tardiness. Lavinia stared blankly. Pandin's gaze fell to her arm, spotting a distinct wound. You are injured. I will summon a medic immediately. She hesitated. No need. But before she could finish, Pandin's strong arm swept around her waist, lifting her effortlessly. Pardon the intrusion. Lavinia found herself nestled in his arms, the world suddenly tilting. This situation. She had read it in the novel. The plot of the Palace of Splendor and Betrayal. The memory of the assassination flooded back, and her mind sharpened. It meant she had transmigrated into Lavinia's body. Her eyes widened in realization. Was she destined to die again? Duke Pandin's voice was low but unshakable. I will not let you die, Your Majesty. I will protect you. Lavinia's thoughts turned dark. Liar. A blatant lie. Because in the novel, Lavinia was destined to be murdered the night before the consort selection, betrayed by the one she trusted most. Suddenly, a man roared, "Lavinia Themedet." She startled, turning toward the voice with a bewildered expression. A man was being pinned down by 2 guards, forced to his knees, his eyes still burned with fury. I pray for divine punishment upon that wicked woman. The mastermind behind this entire coup was none other than Marquis Murray. Marquis Murray ground his teeth in fury. Hand over that vixen. His voice dripped with pure hatred. Every day that woman draws breath is another day she destroys our nation and our people. Duke Pandin stared down at him, his gaze a still lake. Brother-in-law. Lavinia lifted her head from Pandin's embrace, her eyes wide with shock. Brother-in-law? It was exactly like the novel. Duke Pandin's eyes were cold as glacial ice. You are a traitor who dared to draw a blade against Her Majesty. He commanded the guards, throw him in the dungeon until the trial begins. Yes, sir. The guards roared in unison. Marquis Murray struggled violently, jaws clenched tight. He screamed, "You will regret this." Duke Pandin turned to Lavinia, his voice softening. "Let us return, Your Majesty." Lavinia's eyes went blank, cold sweat sliding down her temple. What will become of me now? Days later. Marquis Murray faced the tribunal for attempted regicide. The court was heavy with solemnity as he stood in the dock. The prosecutor's voice boomed through the hall. Defendant Garen Murray, do you admit to orchestrating the assassination attempt on Queen Lavinia? Marquis Murray's back went rigid, veins bulging on his forehead. I admit it. His voice thundered across the room. The people of the West are starving under heavy taxes and famine, yet the Queen has utterly abandoned them. That is why I wielded the sword of justice. Lavinia's memory suddenly sparked. Marquis Murray. This character was in the original novel too. If she recalled correctly, he was a man of immense righteousness who fought to save his dying lands. He had once begged for Lavinia's aid, only to be met with cold indifference. His twisted sense of justice led him down the path of treason. In the original story, Lavinia had ruthlessly ordered his execution after this trial. Not just him, but his entire clan and family were sent to the guillotine. The Murray territory became a mountain of corpses. Among the victims was Duke Pandin's own sister, Ina, the Marquise's wife. Because of that bloodbath, Duke Pandin birthed a deep grudge and lost all faith in Lavinia forever. That event created the motive for one of her future killers. Marquis Murray roared on. Her Majesty ignored the suffering of the West. The nobles whispered among themselves. The Queen might complain, but she has zero capability to solve anything. A woman on the throne is a disaster. Lavinia listened silently. I really almost died. Yet, Lavinia had not a single ally in this room. The wicked Queen, abandoned by all, eventually meets a gruesome end. That was the novel's plot. Lavinia lifted her chin, but I refused to die like that. The judge banged his gavel. He declared loudly, Defendant Marquis Murray is hereby sentenced to death by law. Gim. The judge turned to the defense seat. Duke Pandin, do you have any objections? Duke Pandin clenched his fists. I am Her Majesty's royal guard. Even if he is family, I cannot forgive anyone who turns a blade against her. His voice was frozen steel. I have no objections. Lavinia stared at his back, her heart sinking. If Marquis Murray dies here, Lavinia becomes the villain once more. I absolutely cannot let that happen. Lavinia suddenly rose from her seat. I object. Her voice rang through the court. I demand a commutation for Marquis Murray. This is my command as queen. The gallery erupted in shock. The nobles exchanged bewildered glances as Lavinia pointed a finger straight at Marquis Murray. I hereby appoint you as the reconstruction officer for the West. Furthermore, I grant a 5-year tax exemption for all famine-stricken areas. The corner of Lavinia's lips curled up. You must repair all damage within 5 years. Can you do it? Marquis Murray hesitated, then answered, I can. Lavinia closed her eyes in satisfaction. Then the matter is settled, is it not, High Judge? The High Judge stammered, Yes, Your Majesty. He struck the gavel. Court adjourned. Lavinia turned to leave, her silhouette radiating determination. I will never let the script play out as written. The nobles rushed out, buzzing with confusion. What just happened? Her Majesty actually saved the Marquis and the entire Western Territory. Duke Pandin stood frozen, his gaze dark and unreadable. Back in her chambers, Lavinia rubbed her temples, exhaling deeply. All right, this is even more exhausting than a corporate board meeting. She clenched her hand, but this is good. As long as I fulfill my duties as queen, the ending will definitely change. The door creaked open. Permission to enter. Lavinia looked up to see Duke Pandin in full ceremonial dress, walking slowly into the room. He bowed deeply. Your Majesty, I am truly, endlessly grateful. Thank you for saving my brother-in-law's life. I shall never forget this grace for as long as I live. Lavinia averted her gaze. Do not speak of it. I did not do it for him specifically. I simply had no other choice. Fire ignited in Duke Pandin's eyes. Even so, thanks to your judgment, my family was spared from death, and my own heart has been saved as well. Lavinia's pupils constricted. Her eyes locked onto the dagger at Duke Pandin's waist, glinting with a cold, lethal light. In the original novel, the weapon destined to end her life was a cold, sharp dagger. Lavinia's hand trembled against her chest, the blood draining from her face at the terrifying realization. The murder weapon found at the scene, it was the very gift Lavinia had bestowed upon Duke Pandin to honor his rise as commander of the Knights. Could it be? Is the killer standing right before her? Lavinia's gaze bore down on Duke Pandin, searching for the truth. I plan to dismiss you from your position as captain of the Royal Guard. Duke Pandin's eyes froze instantly. The air grew heavy as he asked, May I know the reason why? Lavinia lowered her eyes, masking her fear. Because you might betray me, just like Marquis Murray did. Suddenly, Duke Pandin seized her hand, his grip desperate. Lavinia flinched. He dropped to one knee, his gaze burning with unwavering resolve. I would never betray you, he vowed. Your Majesty. He bowed low, pressing a reverent kiss to the back of her hand. Absolutely not. Duke Pandin's voice trembled with plea. Please, allow me to remain by your side. Your Majesty. Lavinia fell into deep thought. To rewrite her tragic ending, she had no choice. She must uncover the identity of the true killer before it's too late. Hidden behind those devoted eyes, murderous intent could still be lurking. Lavinia parted her lips slowly, weighing her next words carefully. Very well. Prepare what is necessary. Tomorrow, I shall judge for myself. With that, she buried herself in endless work, the scratching of her quill filling the silence until a voice cut through the stillness. Pardon the intrusion. Lavinia lifted her head. It was Duke Pandin, standing like a silent shadow. He bowed slightly. Your Majesty, do you recall what day it is? Lavinia frowned in confusion. Has something happened? Duke Pandin's voice echoed softly. Today is the grand ball to celebrate your birthday. The pen froze in her hand, her pupils constricted, and her entire body went rigid. Cut to the grand hall, gold and crimson splendor, flowing gowns, and sparkling wine. Lavinia and Duke Pandin made their grand entrance. A ripple of stifled gasps swept through the crowd. It's Her Majesty. She is breathtaking, yet terrifying. Whispers flew like invisible arrows. Who knows what fate awaits if you dare to meet her gaze? Lavinia lowered her eyes. Despite her reputation as the Wicked Queen, her birthday banquet was always overflowing with guests. Duke Pandin's voice carried a hidden tenderness. Please, pay them no mind. Your Majesty is the sun of this empire. Humans are born fearing the scorching heat of the sun. Lavinia's smile was laced with bitterness, but even that sun is destined to burn out and die. She sighed. It's fine. I don't care. Suddenly, Duke Pandin's gaze sharpened like a blade. I care. His voice was cold as steel. Anyone who dares to hurt your Majesty will find no forgiveness from me. His eyes darkened, killing intent flashing dangerously. The murmuring crowd instantly fell into a terrified silence. Ever since the royal trial, the tension had remained suffocating. Duke Pandin turned to Lavinia, his tone steady and grounding. Let us proceed. Lavinia took his arm, feeling a rare moment of awkwardness. I am still not used to these occasions. She sat alone on the magnificent throne, surrounded by nothing but cold luxury and emptiness. She raised her glass, sipping the crimson liquid that resembled blood. A strange sensation washed over her. In the original novel, there were 5 key suspects capable of murdering Lavinia. First, the Minister of Education, David Dior, a master of public manipulation wielding power equal to her own. He hates Lavinia to the bone due to a past incident. Second, the court jester, Jack, an assassin sent by a neighboring kingdom, now serving as her personal spy. A wild card, dangerous and unpredictable. And his original mission was to take her life. He could turn his blade against her at any moment. Third, The tribal king, Sairo Zuma, the brutal leader who united the annexed tribes, his ambition burns like fire, forever waiting for the chance to claim Lavinia's head. Fourth, Prince Moia, her own brother and successor, a mesmerizing flower who drives noble ladies to madness with his charm. Lavinia stripped him of every privilege, ensuring he would never sit upon the throne. And finally, the Black Knight, Claude Pandin. After his family was exiled, his faith in Lavinia began to crumble into dust. One of these 5 men is the killer destined to end Lavinia. This is the absolute truth, confirmed by the author herself. Lavinia narrowed her eyes. They all reeked of motive. Yet she could not pinpoint the hand that would hold the dagger. There must be a deeper truth behind the assassination. She had to know. Her gaze hardened with determination. I will expose the truth. I will cheat death. But who to investigate first? Footsteps echoed on the red carpet. Stopping right before her, a male voice sliced through her thoughts. Your Majesty. Lavinia looked up at the newcomer, her pupils constricting in shock. David Dior, one of the prime suspects. He offered a gentle smile, bowing gracefully. Allow me to offer my humblest congratulations on your birthday. Lavinia replied calmly. Thank you. David Dior's voice dripped with concern. Recent events must have weighed heavily on your heart. I have been truly worried about you. Lavinia's eyes turned cold. Worried you? The hall erupted in noise and toasts, but amidst the celebration, a gaze filled with pure hatred locked onto Lavinia. While Lavinia sat on her throne, distracted by David Dior, a man lunged from the crowd, a dagger glinted in his hand, his face twisted in madness. Die, Lavinia. Lavinia's eyes widened in horror, but Duke Pandin was faster. He disarmed the assailant in a blur of motion, delivering a crushing kick to the man's gut. Lavinia watched, stunned. Duke Pandin pinned the assassin to the floor, strangling him with one hand while raising the dagger high with the other. His eyes were overflowing with terrifying bloodlust. Lavinia recoiled sharply, freezing in place. Duke Pandin halted his strike instantly. Cold steel flashed against the assassin's terrified face before the guards dragged the wretch away. Pandin turned, his voice low. Are you unhurt? Lavinia lowered her gaze. I am safe, thanks to you. She studied him with complicated eyes. This was a man who could extinguish a life without a second thought. Sensing her distant thoughts, the Duke spoke softly. Your Majesty, Lavinia whispered. Will you truly follow every command I give? Pandin's reply was instant and calm. Whatever you command, this subject shall obey. Lavinia locked eyes with him, testing the waters. And if I ordered you to die? Duke Pandin placed a hand over his heart, his devotion absolute. If your Majesty desires my death, I will gladly offer this life, for I believe you are always right. Her mind raced. Any other woman would have fainted from the shock, yet here she stood, wondering. Just how deep did his loyalty truly run? Her gaze drifted down to his hand, spotting a fresh, angry scratch. You are injured. Duke Pandin remained unfazed. It is merely a scratch. Please, do not concern yourself. Lavinia frowned, her voice firm. Nonsense. Treat it properly. Cold sweat beaded on Pandin's brow. The ruthless warrior froze, stunned by her sudden warmth. Watching from the sidelines, David Dio wore a mask of polite amusement. Your Majesty, have you considered our previous discussion? Lavinia blinked, caught off guard. What discussion? David's tone held a hint of playful reproach. It is cruel to feign ignorance, Your Majesty. He leaned in close, invading her space. I speak, of course, of our marriage. Lavinia's pupils trembled. Marriage beside her. Duke Pandin's expression darkened like a storm, while whispers erupted among the guests. David smiled smoothly. The ears here are too many. Shall we continue this conversation another time, in private? Lavinia lowered her lashes, a wave of ominous dread washing over her. But she had to know what the original Lavinia had plotted. Very well, David beamed, bowing slightly. I thank you for your grace. Pandin's fist clenched at his side. He could not afford to let his guard down for a second. David's lips curled. He was looking forward to this. Within these palace walls, that man was a threat to everyone. Sunlight streamed through the glass dome, illuminating the magnificent royal gardens. Lavinia and David sat facing one another. David began, his voice silky. The purpose of our union is simple. You are the nation's symbol, the heart of high society. I am the administrator holding the reins of politics. If we unite as husband and wife, the benefits for both parties would be immeasurable. As Lavinia lifted her teacup, a logical proposal, but her eyes sharpened to cold steel. She remembered. In the original story, Lavinia had married this man. That marriage was built on trust she had foolishly given him. But a dark memory surfaced a dimly lit office. David sitting behind the heavy desk. I have received Her Majesty's permission. He had lied to his subordinates. Proceed. In the memory, Lavinia's voice trembled with betrayal. You lied to me. You forced policies without my consent. David merely crossed his arms, indifferent. I did not lie. This is the duty of a king consort. You need only hand over your authority to me. You intended to use me from the very start. David's goal had always been to use the queen as a puppet to control the empire. Betrayed and broken, Lavinia had forced the annulment. The memory ended with a wedding ring slipping from a finger. That divorce had cost David dearly in the political arena, and in the end, his ambition twisted into pure hatred for Lavinia. Lavinia once believed a marriage without love could survive on trust alone. Back in the present, David leaned forward, breaking her reverie. Wolves are circling your throne, your majesty. If I become your consort, He stared deep into her eyes. I will crush every whisper of dissent in the political sphere. Lavinia mused silently. Marrying him meant misery. It meant being used, just like in the novel. However, if she stoked the fires of his ambition, perhaps she could extract information about the true assassin. So, she made her move. Lavinia offered a dazzling, dangerous smile. What a pity. Sir David? She set the teacup down with a soft clink. You are still far from qualified to stand by my side. David's smile froze instantly. His voice hardened. May I ask where I fall short? Lavinia raised a hand elegantly. A husband worthy of the queen must be the most exceptional, trustworthy man in the empire. At least, that is the standard. She reached out, her finger tracing the line of his jaw. Besides you, there are other candidates worthy of my hand. Are there not? Nearby, Duke Pandin's head snapped toward her. David recoiled slightly. Duke Pandin, or a foreign king, a woman of her power could choose anyone she desired. His eyes grew dark with obsession. What did he have to do to make her look only at him? Lavinia let the silence hang before dropping the real question. I must ask, regarding the attack at the banquet, do you know who was behind it? David's gaze remained placid. I do not know. As Lavinia scrutinized him, he continued, I rose from the common folk and served in the military. I am accustomed to such violence. Lavinia lowered her eyes, hiding her disappointment. I see. As expected, a man like him would not reveal a flaw so easily. This was merely a calculated test. If the assassin possessed military-grade combat experience, infiltrating Lavinia's bedchamber to end her life would be child's play. David clasped Lavinia's hand, his expression dripping with concern. He vowed that the moment he uncovered a single clue, she would be the first to know. He bowed low, pressing a lingering kiss to the back of her hand. He swore to do whatever it took to earn her satisfaction. As his silhouette faded into the sunlight, Lavinia's grip tightened until her knuckles turned white. She had managed to handle him for now, hoping to appease his mood, but the question burned in her mind, who could she truly trust? Back in the solitude of his office, David slumped behind his heavy desk. Lavinia. That woman was far more difficult than he anticipated. Fingers interlaced. He brooded. He never imagined his calculated marriage proposal would meet such a cold rejection. His subordinate asked for orders. David removed his glasses, eyes cold. What else could he do? The queen possessed the love of the people, shielding her effectively. Yet, he must possess her. If soft methods failed, the subordinate flinched at the darkness radiating from him. A twisted, demonic smile curled David's lips. He would simply change tactics. Force would succeed where charm had failed. Outside, the sunset burned like blood. Lavinia turned sharply, only to find Duke Pandin standing there like a silent statue, his gaze abyssal. She whispered, Have you been here this whole time? Pandin nodded. Your Majesty's safety is my only concern. Lavinia reached out, her fingers grazing his cheek. You must be freezing after standing guard for so long. Pandin leaned into her touch, a faint blush dusting his cheekbones. This feels right. Lavinia pressed on. How long? Pandin, surely not since noon. Silence was his only answer. Lavinia's eyes softened with emotion. Why go to such lengths for her? Was it gratitude for saving Marquis Murray? That dagger might one day turn against her, but in this moment, she chose to believe in him. Lavinia turned, the golden sunlight crowning her. Follow me. She glanced back with a dazzling smile. I have a favor to ask of you. Back inside, Lavinia sat with elegant grace upon the sofa. Can you investigate the Prime Minister for me? Duke Pandin tilted his head, the name sparking recognition. Lavinia's eyes pleaded with him. You are the only one I can turn to for this. Pandin's pupils constricted. She needed him. He dropped to one knee, bowing with knightly reverence. Leave it to me. I will personally tear through every layer of his life. From his social circles to the darkest corners of his private affairs, I will root out every suspicious element. His voice was iron. Relief washed over Lavinia's face. I am burdening you. Pandin's lips curved into a rare smile. Lavinia looked away, heart fluttering. The contrast between his battle aura and his gentle obedience was staggering. Meanwhile, an official in uniform presented a report. This is the current situation. Lavinia closed her eyes, smiling with genuine satisfaction. Thank you. Your explanation was lucid and incredibly helpful. In the original novel, Lavinia had descended into paranoia, viewing everyone around her as a potential assassin. The sting of betrayal was agonizing. Yes, but not everyone was an enemy, especially when these people showed such competence. Lavinia scanned the room, her smile warm yet unyielding. I am counting on you all. Our first step is to gather those we can trust. The atmosphere shifted. Around the conference table, Lavinia and her officials signed documents, a machine of high-efficiency leadership. She glanced to her side. Speaking of efficient, why was he here? David spoke slowly, voice like velvet. Does my presence displease you, your majesty? Lavinia paused her pen, looking up. Why would you ask that? David smirked. Because it is written clearly all over your face. Lavinia choked on her words. David continued smooth as silk. Your majesty, you were recently injured. As Prime Minister, isn't it only natural I assist you? Lavinia lowered her head, resuming her writing. True enough. She had to admit, the speed at which they worked together was terrifying. Lavinia and David processed the paperwork side by side, pens scratching in a symphony of frightening productivity. Officials whispered in awe. With the Prime Minister here, everything is moving so smoothly. Lavinia buried herself in documents. It was an undeniable fact. Suddenly, David leaned in, his voice a whisper meant only for her ears. I need you to admit that my ability is unmatched. Lavinia pushed him back. Think what you wish. Her gaze landed on a bouquet resting on the table. By the way, what is with those flowers? David smiled. A small token. If you desire, I can prepare something far more magnificent. I can offer you more than material things. I can offer elite talent. My subordinates, for instance. Lavinia lowered her gaze. I accept the sentiment. But borrowing his men would only surround her with his spies. I cannot owe the prime suspect such a massive debt. David stood up, sensing the wall she put up. Then I shall take my leave. As he departed, the crowd around Lavinia grew denser. David glanced back. She was supposed to be isolated, helpless and alone. Things were becoming complicated. Behind his glasses, his eyes darkened dangerously. I took time out of my schedule to visit her. She could at least pretend to be happy about it. He continued down the hall until he spotted Duke Pandin ahead. David's lips curled. Waiting here specifically for me? How tiresome for you. Duke Pandin raised his eyes, a glare of absolute zero. David kept his smile. You remain as silent as a grave. I see. His tone dripped with mockery. I suppose that is exactly the quality Her Majesty appreciates in you. Duke Pandin cut in, his voice sudden and sharp. Chancellor David? A flicker of confusion crossed David's eyes as he met the Duke's razor-sharp gaze. You seem to be in better spirits than usual today. Pandin tilted his head slightly. Me. His long fingers grazed his chin thoughtfully. Now, why would that be? How truly fascinating. David turned to leave, tossing a careless wave over his shoulder. Thanks for the chat, but I will take my leave now. Duke Pandin stood silent, his eyes calm but intense as he watched the man's retreating shadow. Entering the conference room, a different sight awaited him. Lavinia and her officials were huddled around the table, leisurely enjoying tea and sweets. She waved a hand dismissively. It is called the Pomodoro technique. Proper rest boosts efficiency. Lavinia held up a cookie, her smile radiating pure sunshine. "Would you care for one?" The corners of Duke Pandin's lips curved upward. "I would be honored to accept." Lavinia turned to an official. "Why does the Chancellor keep lurking around here?" The official shrugged. "Isn't it obvious he is gunning for the position of king consort? Aren't all the factions making their moves regarding the succession? It is absolute chaos out there. The public's attention is obsessed with who will stand by Her Majesty's side. That is the real battlefield." Lavinia fell into deep thought. Is a king consort truly that important? The officials nodded in unison. "Absolutely vital. Who else holds the right to sit beside the queen?" Everyone is dying of curiosity. It might be rude to say, but strictly speaking, it is essentially a reverse harem situation. Lavinia's expression darkened. In the original novel, after divorcing David, she planned to take a new consort, only to be assassinated the night before. The consort position was the catalyst for the murder. The tragedy struck right before the appointment. A cold shiver of panic ran through her, yet this moment felt so peaceful. Just friends gathered around a table. Basking in the quiet glow of the afternoon sun, Lavinia took a bite of her cookie. If only this tranquility could last forever. But darkness always follows the light. A cloaked figure emerged from the shadows. A heavy iron hammer gripped in his hand. He raised it high and smashed it down without hesitation. A deafening crash echoed through the hall. The glass shattered into 1,000 razor-sharp shards. The intruder snatched a necklace from the debris, clenching it tight. "I will never forgive you." He ground his teeth, his voice trembling with hate. "This is all your fault." The broken glass on the floor reflected his twisted expression. "I swear, I will have my revenge." He reached out for the final piece. Lavinia stood with arms crossed, her eyes cold as ice. "So, this is the vault where the national treasure was stolen." The shattered display case was an ugly scar in the luxurious room, a silent witness to the violence of the night before. Duke Pandin's face was grave. "Yes, the treasure is only exhibited twice a year, in spring and autumn. We are currently in the closed period. Only authorized personnel can enter." Lavinia narrowed her eyes. "Could it be a professional thief?" Pandin shook his head. "It looks more like the work of someone inside the palace." He handed her a piece of paper. "Please, read this." The note was filled with provocation. "I have taken the national treasure, the tears of dawn. A queen who cannot see the rot beneath her own nose is nothing but a failure. Your pathetic security made this too easy. You are unfit for the throne." Lavinia crumpled the letter in her fist, whispering in disbelief. "Is this some kind of joke?" Pandin added. "We found this note next to the empty display case. Lavinia's gaze went blank. "They stole the national treasure just because they dislike me. Wait. That is right. I remember now. This incident happened in the novel, too, the theft of the national treasure. In the original story, Lavinia exploded in rage, torturing and venting her anger on everyone. But the novel lacked details." Lavinia snapped back to reality, glancing at Pandin. "Still, the management must have been lax." Pandin bowed slightly. "Forgive my bluntness, but the security was strict. Aside from officials with the specialized knowledge to maintain the collection, no one is permitted inside." Lavinia nodded. "I see." Pandin continued. "We have 3 suspects. All are managers of the vault." "Incriminating items have already been found at the scene," Lavinia asked. "Are you certain the culprit is among the 3? Pandin replied firmly. "Yes, unless one knows the vault's management like the back of their hand, such a clean crime is impossible." However, heavy footsteps interrupted them. David strolled in slowly. "However, that deduction relies on a single premise that we have excluded the only truly dangerous individual in this palace." He pushed up his glasses. "The investigation team's report says as much." He bowed deeply. "An honor to see you again, Your Majesty." Lavinia eyed him coldly. "And who is this dangerous individual?" David replied smoothly. "Surely, you know best, Your Majesty." Lavinia straightened up, confusion swirling in her mind. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice cut through the tension. "You are not supposed to act on your own. How did you get in here?" Jack grinned, looking around casually. "Let me look around a bit. It is not like the floor will wear out." The guard's face turned purple with rage. How dare a lowly court jester display such arrogance? He lunged forward, seizing Jack by the collar, but a cold light flashed in Jack's eyes. In a split second, a dagger materialized in his hand, slicing through the air in a reverse grip. A crimson liquid sprayed violently. The guard collapsed in shock. a blood-curdling scream tearing through the silence. Jack loomed over the fallen man, his voice dropping to a chilling whisper. You really shouldn't touch me without asking. Even I don't know what kind of madness I might unleash him. Queen Lavinia watched, her soul trembling in fear. Suddenly, Jack's eyes curved into crescents, and that terrifying aura vanished, replaced by a radiant, innocent smile. Just a little joke. He hoisted the trembling guard back to his feet, his tone light and breezy. Did you actually think I gutted you? The guard stared blankly at his chest. No wound, only a splash of fake strawberry syrup. Instantly, the light died in Jack's eyes, leaving behind a frozen abyss. But try that again, and I might just end you for real. Abruptly, he spun around, pulling Lavinia into a suffocatingly tight embrace, a move both intimate and dangerously wild. The only person in this world allowed to touch me without permission is Her Majesty the Queen. Lavinia stiffened, her mind racing. What is this Jack acts as her spy? But, wait, does this imply a forbidden romance? Before she could process it, Jack obediently rested his head on her lap like a tamed beast. His eyes overflowed with adoration, sending a flush of heat straight to Lavinia's cheeks. Suddenly, an iron grip crushed Jack's throat. Duke Pandin's hand clamped down, his strength threatening to pulverize the jester's windpipe. The Duke's voice was absolute zero. Do not touch Her Majesty. Jack's face turned ghastly pale. Save me, Your Majesty. At this rate, my neck will snap. Lavinia's expression darkened. Release him. The Duke obeyed, and as Jack gasped for air, 2 royal guards immediately pinned his arms behind his back. Jack's smile froze in place, tilting his head with feigned innocence. I told you already. People shouldn't touch me so carelessly. David glared down at him like a judge facing a sinner. If you truly wanted to, there is no fortress in this world you couldn't infiltrate. You thrive on inciting chaos and mocking the royal court. I am certain this theft is just another one of your twisted games. Duke Pandin's gaze grew even more frigid. Even as the Queen's personal shadow, stealing a national treasure is a crime that cannot be forgiven. Jack put on a mask of pure grievance. Spare me to the public. I am nothing but a humble court jester. My job is to bring laughter with silly magic tricks and cheerful tunes. Those stealth skills, mere performance effects. Suddenly, his tone shifted, his eyes sharpened into blades. I apologize for disappointing you, my lord, but this time, I am truly innocent. David adjusted his glasses with a gloved finger, catching the nuance instantly. Only, this time, the Duke's voice dripped with suspicion. Save your stories for the dungeon. But Jack violently broke free. He threw himself at Lavinia, wrapping her in his arms and gazing down at her. His eyes held a mix of tenderness and mockery. All right, now we are in serious trouble. An awkward silence descended upon the room. Lavinia stared back. It was exactly like the novel described. His talent for provoking people was truly unrivaled under the heavens. If the story ends with Jack assassinating Lavinia, it means she has failed to tame this wild, unpredictable stallion. Is this a destined bad ending? No. Lavinia's eyes hardened with resolve. She would rewrite everything. Jack's voice whispered in her ear. Your Majesty, please save me. I am innocent, though I do not expect you to believe a wretch like me. Lavinia raised her head, locking eyes with him. I believe you. A flicker of genuine shock crossed Jack's face. Lavinia embraced him, her hand gently stroking his golden hair, her gaze burning with determination. I will personally prove your innocence. The declaration hung in the air, stunning everyone into silence. Lavinia squeezed her eyes shut, a cold drop of sweat rolling down her temple, saying it was easy. Delivering on it was a different beast entirely. I've never solved a crime in my life. What do I do now? Worse yet, I don't even know if he's actually telling the truth. But first things first, Lavinia pushed Jack away, stealing her heart. Her eyes regained their regal sharpness. Bring me everyone connected to this case. Now. Cut to the office. Lavinia sat at her desk, Duke Pandin at her side, facing 3 nervous suspects. A woman with short gray hair stepped forward, bowing respectfully. Greetings, Your Majesty. I am Administrator Crete. She lowered her gaze, her voice heavy with guilt. The national treasure. Lost. Duke Pandin's voice cut through, calm and controlled. Where were you when the crime occurred? Crete answered immediately. I was in the archives, organizing documents, Your Majesty. Next, a woman with long brown hair stepped up. I am Administrator Annie, I believe. I was asleep in my quarters at that time. Finally, the woman with the hair bun scratched her neck, laughing awkwardly. I am headmaid Julian. I, snuck out of the capital to drink. She waved her hands frantically, but I swear, I don't do that often. Lavinia scrutinized the trio. None of them had a solid alibi. Duke Pandin leaned in, whispering into her ear. Aside from Jack, these three are the only ones with the capability to pull this off. Lavinia nodded slightly. Exactly. She slammed her hands on the desk, rising abruptly. We are returning to the crime scene. Her eyes fell upon the evidence allegedly found in the suspect's possession. Crete's fountain pen, Annie's earring, and Julian's pocket watch. 3 mundane objects resting innocently on a sheet of paper. Lavinia stared at them, her mind racing to find the connection. Usually, a criminal plants a single clue to frame a scapegoat. But here, 3 distinct items lay scattered. A chaotic puzzle that defied all logic. Jack leaned in, his silhouette looming over her. A gloved finger traced his own lips in a hush. Tell me, have you figured out whose head rolls for this? Lavinia's silence was heavy. Finally, she exhaled, her voice measured. I am still calculating. The thief remains a ghost, and the national treasure is nowhere to be found. Jack ruffled his hair, a groan of pure boredom escaping his throat. Ugh, another dead end. This investigation is hitting a wall, isn't it? Watch your tongue, Lavinia warned, her eyes sharp. If the culprit escapes, everyone faces the consequences, even you. A twisted grin stretched across Jack's face. Now that sounds like music to my ears. He crouched low, a predator's glint in his eyes. If we can't find the rat, his gaze darkened with bloodlust. Why don't we just slaughter the whole mischief? Lavinia froze, horror widening her eyes. Have you lost your mind? Jack chuckled dark and low, Steele saying as he drew a dagger. 1 silver flash, your majesty. I can end their miserable lives right now. You are insane. Lavinia's voice quivered, but the corner of Jack's mouth only curled higher, an aura of pure malice radiating from him. What a strange thing to ask, he mused. Usually, by this point, you'd be screaming for me to peel the skin off their bones. Cold sweat trickled down Lavinia's spine. Her nerves screamed danger. Jack gently took her hand, his touch deceptively soft. Come on, it will be exhilarating. The stage is set for your beautiful wrath. Who shall we break first? Lavinia stared at him, the weight of his madness pressing down on her. This man, his loyalty was a poisoned chalice. She snatched her hand back. Did you not read the message left behind? This thief is openly mocking me. Lavinia placed a hand over her heart, her resolve hardening like diamond. Stand down, Jack. Your role is to watch in silence. Nothing more. I will hunt this criminal down myself. Jack paused, twirling the dagger effortlessly between his fingers. Oh, now things are getting interesting. From thin air, a crimson rose appeared blooming and vibrant. Jack offered it with a smile. This feeling, it reminds me of the very first time our paths crossed. His gaze softened, drowning in nostalgia. But perhaps your majesty has forgotten the vow made that day. Lavinia took the flower, a frown creasing her brow. What promise? Before she could react, Jack leaned in. His lips grazed the shell of her ear, his breath scorching hot. Lavinia's body locked up, her pupils trembled. His whisper was a dark prayer. To witness you conquer the world. That is the only reason I draw breath. He bowed deeply, hand over his heart, as rose petals swirled around them in a phantom wind. Lavinia stumbled back, her mind reeling. Jack stepped onto the balcony railing, a satisfied smirk on his face. I shall be watching with great anticipation. He tilted his head back, inhaled the sky, and tipped backward, falling into the void like a puppet with cut strings. Horror flooded Lavinia's veins. She sprinted to the edge. He was gone, vanished into the air. Even for her, Jack was a puzzle with missing pieces. Controlling a monster like that, it was an impossible task. Lavinia massaged her temples, forcing a long, shaky breath from her lungs. Focus. I need to regain my composure. She paced the empty hall, a solitary figure of power. The alibis were fragile. The clues were deliberate. The culprit wasn't hiding. They were challenging the crown itself. Her thumb brushed her lower lip, eyes narrowing as gears turned within her mind. What is the endgame here? Suddenly, a phantom whisper echoed in her skull. It is all your fault, so... Lavinia's pupils constricted. Fear spiked. The empty hall dissolved, replaced by a vision Annie and Clet, Standing off in the center of the room, Annie lashed out, her face twisted in fury. This is on you. If you hadn't been so negligent, none of this would have happened. Clett clutched her head, agony etched on her features. I am sorry, Clett stammered. Julian stepped between them like a shield. Enough, calm yourselves. Clett has been carrying this burden alone. Do not cast blame for simple misfortune. I know the pressure Clett is under. He paused, his voice dropping. Just do not do anything to betray our trust. Clett bowed her head in submission. Understood. From the shadows. Lavinia watched the memory play out, analyzing every twitch and tone. The National Vault is a fortress. If the treasure is gone, the rot comes from within. She needed to control her pawns. Duke Pandin turned, sensing the shift in the air. Is something amiss, Your Majesty? Lavinia's gaze sharpened into a blade. There is a task only you can handle, Hami. I need an investigation launched immediately. Back in the Grand Hall, Lavinia stood with arms crossed, an imperial statue of judgment. Julian approached cautiously. Rumors say you have already identified the thief. Indeed, Lavinia replied, her voice ringing with absolute certainty. Clett looked around, bewildered. Who would dare commit such treason? Fire danced in Lavinia's eyes. Before I name them, we must understand the why. Julian frowned. The why, isn't it obviously greed? To steal the treasure, no. That is too simple. Lavinia raised a hand, her finger pointing straight at the trembling manager. It was for something else entirely. Isn't that right? Manager Clett. The color drained from Clett's face. Julian and Annie recoiled as if struck. Clett, you accuse her. Surely you jest. Clett forced a smile, though her hands shook. On what grounds do you base this accusation, Your Majesty? Lavinia's mind flashed back to the crime scene. The planted evidence, the convenient alibis. On the surface, the clues were designed to implicate all three of you equally. I may not know where the treasure lies yet, but I know exactly who staged the scene. My earrings vanished without a trace, Annie muttered. Julian nodded grimly, and my pocket watch went missing as well. Lavinia's gaze bore into Clett. And what of your fountain pen, the one you claimed never left your side? Clett hung her head, a shadow falling over her eyes. Lavinia allowed a faint, triumphant smile to touch her lips. To frame everyone, the culprit needed an item from each of you. Stealing those specific items required access and effort, but once I pulled that thread, the entire tapestry of lies unraveled. I had the Duke conduct a thorough investigation. The evidence is undeniable. You stole the earrings and the watch. However, Lavinia's gaze softened as she turned to Clett. If possible, I hope the culprit turns themselves in. Perhaps it might lighten the penalty, even just a little. A shadow cast over Clett's eyes, deep and resigned. Then there is no need for that. She raised her head, her gaze burning with sudden resolve. If your investigation has reached this depth, Your Majesty, then I have no defense to offer. A chilling, bitter smile curled at the corner of her lips. Those two fools, Julian and Annie, lacked the brain power to pull off a heist of national treasures. Annie gasped, her voice trembling. You actually stole the national treasure. Clett accepted the accusation with terrifying calm. That is precisely what I'm saying. Julian exploded with rage. Why? Why would you do something so incredibly stupid? Clett's eyes turned to ice. The only fools here are you two. Lavinia crossed her arms, her voice cutting through the noise. Your negligence and your duties will be thoroughly investigated. Furthermore, every act of cruelty, every moment you tormented Clett in this workplace, it will all be exposed to the world. The color drained from Annie and Julian's faces, leaving them frozen in terror. Clett closed her eyes, a faint, satisfied smile gracing her lips. Indeed, everyone in the palace knew the grim fate awaiting those who dared to touch Lavinia's reverse scale. She had weaponized that very fear, orchestrating a plan to drag everyone down into the abyss with her. She was willing to pay with her life just to ensure her tormentors suffered the same fate. Duke Pandin's expression remained cold as stone. Stealing a national treasure is a capital offense. Take her away. The guard stepped forward, but Lavinia moved, shielding Clett with her own body. A woman who endured such toxicity, who worked tirelessly only to face this end. It was simply too unjust. She gently lifted Clett's chin. forcing their eyes to meet. Tell me, are you interested in a promotion? Clet stood frozen in shock. Lavinia answered for her. Of course you are. Behind them, Annie and Julian trembled violently before collapsing into a heap on the floor. Duke Pandin looked down at the pathetic display. Then let us begin by interrogating these two filth first. Horror washed over Annie and Julian's faces. As the guards dragged them screaming away, Lavinia placed a hand on her chest, letting out a long sigh of relief. Jack raised his head, a radiant smile on his face. I never expected your majesty to actually catch the true culprit. Lavinia rubbed her temples wearily. I did nothing of the sort. This time was pure luck. She had no intention of hiding her crime to begin with. Jack stood up, his tone shifting. But if this were the majesty of the past, you would have flown into a rage and ordered everyone executed. Lavinia's body went rigid. I will not do such things anymore. Jack studied her intently. May I ask you one question? Curiosity danced in his eyes as he leaned in. Why do you protect me? 2 years ago, darkness shrouded the majestic estate, the stars watching silently from above. Patrol guards roamed the courtyard, the air heavy with suffocating tension. Jack's silhouette tore through the night like a phantom. He swung a silver short sword, its cold steel gleaming with lethal intent, before driving the blade into the earth with a sharp, ringing clang. Duke Pandin's roar shook the walls. Do not let him escape. He is the assassin sent to murder Her Majesty. Capture him at all costs. Kill him if you must. Jack dropped to one knee, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, staining his lips crimson. He staggered down the empty corridor, leaving a trail of broken blood drops behind him. Every step was a struggle against gravity. A fish in a net, he thought bitterly. What a pathetic, anticlimactic ending. Suddenly, a voice pierced the silence. Is someone there? Jack spun around, his guard instantly up, only to see long violet hair flowing in the night breeze. Lavinia stood bathed in the pale moonlight, walking slowly toward him. Her steps were steady, elegant, and devoid of fear. Her emerald phoenix eyes shimmered with an unearthly light, her expression terrifyingly serene. Jack looked at her, and a smirk tugged at his lips. It seems the gods do exist after all. To think my target would wander right into my path. His voice trembled slightly, adrenaline mixing with pain. You are Queen Lavinia Themis, correct? Lavinia replied calmly. I am. Jack burst into laughter. He tightened his grip on the dagger, the blade flashing dangerously under the moon. Walking alone in the dead of night, you should be careful. Bad men might be lurking. Lavinia's gaze remained perfectly still, like a deep lake. So, does that make you the bad man? Jack muttered. I suppose it does. Heavy, frantic footsteps thundered from the distance. Duke Pandin burst onto the scene, leading a squad of armed guards. His eyes were cold as death, locked onto Jack. Step away from Her Majesty. Jack laughed contemptuously. Away how far exactly? If you aren't specific, I might get confused. From this distance, I'm confident I can strike faster than you. Since I'm walking the road to hell anyway, I might as well take the queen with me. Duke Pandin's face went ghastly white. Your Majesty, please, come this way. But Lavinia ignored Pandin's desperate plea. She took a bold step forward. Tell me your name. Jack's entire body shuddered, his voice turning weak. Jack. Lavinia's voice echoed softly in the night. A fine name, but if you continue this way, you will die. Jack's knuckles turned white around his dagger. Perhaps, but if word spreads that I assassinated Queen Lavinia, my name will echo through history. Lavinia chuckled softly, a sound like wind chimes. The validation of strangers. Do you truly care for such trivial things? Jack's pupils contracted, his face twisted in disbelief. Lavinia turned to Duke Pandin, her tone commanding and absolute. I have taken a liking to this man. Regarding the events of tonight, act as though they never occurred, and prepare medical treatment for him immediately. Duke Pandin's expression warped with shock. But Your Majesty? Lavinia's gaze snapped back to him, colder than the abyss. Did you not hear my command? Duke Pandin bowed his head, submitting to the queen's will. Lavinia stood tall under the moonlight, declaring her verdict. Jack, from this moment forward, you belong to me. Your words are an absolute command. I shall enjoy this to the fullest. Jack finally broke the silence, his voice dripping with amusement. But may I ask just one thing? Why save a wretch like me? Lavinia looked up, meeting his gaze. Didn't you say it yourself? You claimed you weren't the mastermind. I haven't fallen so low as to discard a man who screams his innocence. Jack suddenly burst into laughter. Lavinia frowned. confused. What's so funny? Jack shook his head, a smirk playing on his lips. Nothing. I just feel that your majesty hasn't changed a bit. He twirled a sealed envelope between his fingers. True. I suppose I owe you for saving me from those false accusations. Lavinia eyed the letter. What is this? Jack explained. Top secret intel from our neighbor. Consider it a bonus service included with my loyalty. Lavinia thought to herself. Secret intelligence? He acts like a fool, but his skills are terrifyingly sharp. That makes him all the more dangerous. Jack continued, leaning in closer. Your Majesty looks quite captivating today. You remind me of the legendary detective Alice from the rumors. That name struck Lavinia like a physical blow. Her pupils constricted. Alice. The female officer who solves palace crimes. The main character of this world. If Alice were here, she would have found the truth behind Lavinia's assassination attempt long before the tragedy struck. Jack took Lavinia's hand, bowing low to press a kiss to her fingertips. My queen, let us hope our next meeting is just as delightful. He whispered a soft farewell. Until we meet again. In an instant, his body shattered into 1,000 crimson petals, vanishing into thin air. Lavinia called out, Wait, I still have questions for you. But she stood alone in the empty hall. He's gone. And I'm still no closer to finding a single clue about the person who tried to murder me. The men surrounding Lavinia. Why is every single one of them so selfish? Days later. Lavinia sat behind her desk, staring down Duke Pandin. So, in other words, this Jack character is the one I recruited right before I was attacked. Duke Pandin bowed his head. That is correct. Lavinia fell into deep thought. I can't tell if the old Lavinia was incredibly generous or just blind. Why did she let a man like Jack cling to her? It's no wonder he became a thorn in everyone's side within the palace. Duke Pandin continued his report. He excelled as an intelligence agent, which is why the charges of attempted assassination were dropped. Lavinia's expression darkened. Honestly, I find him impossible to handle. He and Duke Pandin were polar opposites, fire and ice. She asked curiously, and what about his title, the court jester? Pandin replied, a title your majesty invented herself. You approved it simply for your own amusement. Lavinia nodded slowly. I see. My memories after the accident are still a blur. Thank you for clarifying. Pandin bowed, thinking nothing of it. Claire, the secretary, entered with a stack of files. Here are the documents you requested. Lavinia took them. Thank you. I appointed the suspect of the theft as my secretary, but her skills exceed my wildest expectations. Don't let her appearance fool you. The entire national treasury is practically dancing in the palm of her hand. More importantly, she had the guts to leave a warning for me. She's bold. Lavinia suddenly asked. Right. Where was the national treasure found? Pandin answered immediately. In her room, hidden in a secret compartment of her bookshelf. Lavinia's voice turned steel hard. Regardless of her past, she is my secretary now. No one is to bully her. If I break their defenses one by one, perhaps Lavinia's tragic fate can be rewritten. Duke Pandin might even become a true ally. She spoke up. Claire, clear my schedule for the afternoon. I have something to do. Claire looked surprised. You have plans? Sunlight pierced through the leaves, bathing the palace balcony in gold. Lavinia stepped out. Below, a group of burly knights gathered in the courtyard. She took a deep breath. Begin. The knights grunted, heaving on ropes, struggling to climb the sheer walls. Lavinia watched from above. Recent events have taught me one thing. This investigation is life or death. To find the killer who targeted me, I must figure out exactly how they infiltrated my bedchamber. But watching the knights panting and failing, Lavinia sighed. Relying on these guys might be hopeless. Suddenly, a voice whispered, Did you miss me? Jack appeared behind her, draping an arm casually around her shoulders. His smile was full of teasing mischief. Looks like you're up to something interesting. Jack tapped his chin, his eyes scanning the scene below where the knights were gasping for air, completely exhausted. He muttered, I see. For amateurs, that wall is indeed a nightmare. His eyes lit up, a confident smirk curling his lips. Jack launched himself into the air. His body traced a perfect arc against the sky, light as a bird in flight. He kicked off the protruding stones, defying gravity. His movements were fluid like water flowing downstream. Jack landed on the balcony railing with perfect balance, looking heroic. Lavinia and the knights below dropped their jaws, staring in pure shock. Jack stood perched on the railing, looking down at the crowd. Your Majesty, I'm up. though I admit that wall offered a bit of a challenge. Lavinia looked up at him, awe flickering in her eyes. Even without a proper fortress wall, he scaled it as if it were nothing. She made her decision instantly. Excellent. I've decided to hire you. Jack smiled, extending a hand, pretending to be confused. Hire me. Jack tossed an apple high into the air. It drew a red arc against the blue sky. Suddenly a sharp whistle. An arrow tore through the wind, piercing the apple dead center. The apple explodes into 4 perfect quarters. Lavinia locks eyes with Jack, her command absolute. Infiltrate my bedchamber, bypass the guards, and come straight to me. Jack blinks, caught off guard. Your Highness's private quarters. Lavinia nods, her expression unyielding. That wall climb was child's play. Now, I have activated the lethal security traps. Jack rubs his chin, calculating. Sounds tricky. One wrong step and I'll be Swiss cheese. Are you saying you can't do it? Lavinia challenges. Jack looks up, a cocky smirk tugging at his lips. My body is tougher than it looks. I would never dream of disappointing you, Your Highness. Lavinia stands alone in the center of the room. This was where she died. The assassin entered from the balconies, meaning they scaled the walls unseen. If anyone can replicate that feat. Suddenly, a shadow flickers in her eyes. Boots touch the balcony rail, silent as a ghost. Jack appears, Lavinia's eyes widen, her lips parting in genuine shock. Jack throws his arms wide, soaking in the moment like a stage actor. Well, how was that for an entrance? If you are satisfied, a round of applause and some cheering would be nice. Lavinia offers a slow, deliberate clap, just as I expected. She steps forward. Tell me, how did it feel climbing up here? Jack closes his eyes, smiling. I deliver what I promise. But that route is suicide. Without god-tier skills and perfect knowledge of the layout, it is impossible. Lavinia's mind races. Someone with agility like Jack. And intimate knowledge of the castle. Jack's voice snaps her back to reality. So, why the test? Jack asks. Lavinia stares at him. If he were the killer, would he really expose his skills like this? I needed to know if an intruder could kill me. Jack blinks, his smile fading. Excuse me. Lavinia's gaze turns icy. In a flash, she draws a dagger and presses the cold steel against Jack's throat, just like this. Do you understand now? Jack does not flinch. Dangerous games, Your Highness. Who would dare assassinate a queen? Enough games. Answer me. Jack's emerald eyes remain calm as a frozen lake. I think it is possible. If they can breach this room, taking a life is the easy part. Lavinia lowers the blade slowly. I see. That is what I needed to confirm. Jack is not off the suspect list yet. He has no intent to kill me now. But a blade can turn at any moment. A shadow of exhaustion crosses Lavinia's face. Living a life of constant suspicion is draining her soul. A single drop of cold sweat rolls down Jack's cheek. He asks cautiously, Can I get up now? Lavinia sheathes the weapon. Relax. It is a prop. You think I would use a real blade? You should not be so careless. When you let someone get this close, pin you down, well, you never know what they might do. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. Lavinia's cheeks burn red as she realizes the position. Wait, not like that. She tries to scramble away. This is not what I meant. Jack's arm snakes around her waist, pulling her flesh against him. I am always at your service. Lavinia freezes in his embrace. What is he doing? Jack whispers against her ear, his voice husky. Don't I deserve a little reward for today? Bam! The bedroom door flies open. Duke Pandin stands in the doorway, his aura cold enough to freeze hell over. Lavinia gasps. Pandin's glare locks onto them, his voice vibrating with suppressed rage. Get away from Her Majesty. Steel hisses as he draws his sword. Jack raises his hands innocently. Hey, not my fault this time. He stands up, that infuriatingly calm smile back in place. Before this gets messy, I will take my leave. Until next time. He pauses. Oh, and Your Highness watch out for the Prime Minister. Lavinia freezes. What? She steps forward. What do you mean? Jack glances back. Dig a little deeper, and you will see. With that, he vanishes into the shadows. Duke Pandin steps forward, holding a thick file. Here's the background investigation on the Prime Minister you requested. Lavinia takes it, nodding thanks. Her eyes scan the documents rapidly, hunting for clues. Prime Minister David Dio, born in the Royal District, son of a humble blacksmith. Common blood, but a terrifying genius. A commercial prodigy who gained the military's backing while traveling the world. His policies revolutionized the kingdom. At 29, he became the youngest prime minister in history. Lavinia's eyes narrow. An ambitious workaholic? I need to go deeper. Jack's warning rings in her ears. Beware the prime minister. Lavinia calls out sharply. Gret. Yes, your highness. Lavinia's voice is calm but steely. There are those who do not respect the crown. I need to distinguish friend from foe. Check the prime minister's schedule. I'm going to turn his life inside out. Duke Pandin leans in with a report. The prime minister has been meeting frequently with the Western aristocracy. And Aid adds, he is scheduled to join their hunting party this weekend. Hunting is the current trend among the elite. It is not just sport, it is a display of hierarchy and power. Lavinia nods. A plan forming. Like businessmen playing golf to seal a deal. Perfect. It is time I understood exactly who David Dio really is. Even if he isn't pulling the strings, keeping a close watch on him won't hurt. I cannot allow him to run wild unchecked. She turned to Duke Pandin beside her. Tell me, are you skilled in the art of the hunt? Flashback to the Prime Minister's office. A subordinate reported the weekend hunt schedule, looking troubled. He promised to handle everything perfectly on the day. But then came the curveball. Her Majesty, the Queen, had decided to join the hunt herself. Days later, at the forest edge, the air buzzed with excitement as nobles gathered, their chatter filling the clearing before the hunt began. David stood amidst the throng, arms crossed in observation. Lavinia's voice cut through the noise. Why the long face when the weather is so magnificent? Lavinia emerged with Duke Pandin, clad in streamlined riding gear. She radiated an aura of majestic command. David's gaze swept over her. That attire suits you perfectly. Your Majesty. She offered a gentle smile. Thank you. Then, David's focus shifted to Pandin. The Duke joining a hunt, a rare sight indeed. Pandin's expression remained stone cold. I am merely here as Her Majesty's escort. David's eyes narrowed behind his lenses, a sharp glint accompanying his smirk. Is that so? How incredibly reliable of you. I always took you for a cold man. Yet, whenever Her Majesty is involved, you seem to burn with unexpected passion. Duke Pandin stepped behind Lavinia, placing a protective hand upon her shoulder. Her presence was a variable I hadn't calculated. I cannot read her moves at all. He masked his thoughts and spoke. Your Majesty, since this is your first time with a crossbow, please use this. He offered her a handkerchief. Do be careful not to injure yourself. It would be wise to stay close to the Duke. Lavinia accepted the cloth. Thank you. Is this adequate? David bowed slightly. Then, I shall take my leave. As he walked away, leaving the pair behind, his thoughts churned. Acting this unsettled is not like me. Lavinia narrowed her eyes. He is either surprisingly thoughtful or plotting something dark. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind. Your Majesty. Lavinia turned to see Marquis Murray approaching. The Marquis hurried over, looking slightly flustered. I never imagined you would grace the hunt with your presence. Lavinia's mind raced. Marquis Murray. The man who once plotted against me. Now, I have appointed him to rebuild the West. Since the hunt is in his territory, his presence was inevitable. You look well, Marquis, Lavinia observed. Murray bowed deeply. It is all thanks to your Majesty's grace and support. With the West reviving, the weight on my shoulders has lifted significantly. He lowered his gaze. My gratitude toward you knows no bounds. Lavinia watched him coldly. It is terrifying how quickly a man's loyalty can shift. Murray raised his head. I hope to rely on your guidance in the future as well. Duke Pandin interjected calmly. I am present as well. Murray beamed enthusiastically. Duke, I am naturally delighted to see you too. Deep in the forest, a bird sat motionless on a branch. David raised his crossbow. Taking aim, he pulled the trigger, and the bolt tore through the wind. Applause erupted from the surrounding nobles. Magnificent. What incredible skill. David lowered his weapon. Oh my, I thought I had missed. A noble leaned in. Nonsense. That was a direct hit. Another chimed in agreement. Indeed, you never miss your mark. I shall have a servant retrieve the prize immediately. David smirked internally. They probably planted prey bought from local hunters to boost my score. No matter. I shall simply enjoy the diversion. Lavinia watched from a distance. He looks like he is playing a casual round of golf. Even the local lords are scrambling to stroke his ego. He is the Prime Minister. After all, his influence is absolute. David adjusted his glove with practiced ease. All right, everyone, let us split into groups. We shall regroup here once the sport is done. The party ventured into the woods, footsteps rustling against the fallen leaves. Lavinia tapped her chin thoughtfully. It is strange. Why does David command such adoration? Duke Pandin offered an explanation. He is a master of alliances. He identifies a common enemy, then unites the pack against it. Lavinia's gaze darkened. A common enemy, just like the Lavinia from the original novel. Marcus Murray added, that was how David rose to power, but he also earned the hatred of those he vilified. Lavinia nodded. I see. Suddenly, her foot caught on a jagged stone. Duke Pandin moved with lightning speed. He caught Lavinia, pulling her firmly into his embrace to steady her. Are you injured? Lavinia looked up, meeting his deep, intense gaze. I am fine, thank you. Duke Pandin released her, his eyes darting away. Think nothing of it. Just watch your step. The terrain is becoming treacherous. Suddenly, a blood-curdling roar tore through the forest silence. Lavinia and Pandin froze, eyes wide with shock. What in the heavens was that? Nearby, a noble lay sprawled in the dirt, his crossbow shattered. Towering over him was a colossal tiger, its roar shaking the very earth. Its fangs were bared, radiating overwhelming killing intent. David raised his crossbow, his breath coming in ragged gasps. What kind of monster is this? He grit his teeth. This is no game. The beast lunged, its massive claws slicing the air, aiming straight for David's throat. David was thrown back, slamming into the hard ground with a pained groan. The tiger stalked forward, a dark, ominous light glowing in its eyes. David lay helpless, his face dirtied and glasses askew, staring death in the face. Who orchestrated this deadly trap? Was it Duke Lionel of the East, Chief Lee, or perhaps the Dean himself? He dropped to one knee, gasping for air. / they dare use me as bait for beasts. / rage consumed him. / I absolutely refuse to die in this godforsaken wasteland. A massive tiger claw blotted out the sky, descending with crushing force / thwack * an arrow pierced the beast's leg, sending a spray of crimson blood into the air. Lavinia stood frozen, a crossbow gripped in her hands, her expression icy cold. / her eyes widened in realization. / I hit the mark. Duke Pandin moved faster than the wind / his blue cloak left a blurred afterimage as he surged forward / with a flash of steel. He brought his sword down / boom / the colossal beast collapsed to the ground. The surrounding nobles were pale as ghosts, their souls nearly leaving their bodies. / their minds reeled in shock. / what just happened? Lavinia stepped forward, her voice steady. / the Chancellor and the Duke combined their strength to defeat the monster. The Chancellor's exquisite technique combined with the Duke's power, truly magnificent. / Lavinia clapped her hands, a radiant smile on her face. / David turned, his gaze locking onto hers. Your Majesty. / Lavinia offered a subtle smile. / if word got out that I saved you, it would damage your dignity, wouldn't it? I have no desire to draw attention to myself. More importantly, I cannot have you owing me a debt. So please, save your face and accept this glory. David's expression shifted, a storm of complex emotions swirling within his eyes. The nobles flocked to David. / my lord, your reputation is well deserved. You saved us all. / David gave a weary wave of his hand. / it is enough that everyone is safe. Duke Pandin turned his gaze to Lavinia. / are you truly satisfied with this outcome? / she replied softly. It does not matter. Pandin's eyes lingered on her, filled with newfound respect. / you were exceptional back there. / you possess a terrifying talent for the crossbow hit. Lavinia looked up, her eyes shimmering like stars. / do you really think so? / a strange warmth bloomed in her chest, a fleeting sense of happiness. The banquet hall erupted in celebration. / the Chancellor's archery is divine, one shouted. / and Duke Pandin's swordsmanship is equally legendary, another agreed. Lavinia raised her wine glass, silently listening to the praise lavished upon others. So, this has become the heroic legend of David and Pandin now. She took a slow sip of the crimson wine. Indeed. / who would believe that the evil empress personally fired the shot that saved them all? A flush crept up her cheeks. The alcohol was hitting her. / I can't take this anymore. * click. Clack. * footsteps approached, and a pair of polished leather shoes stopped before her. David's eyes held a probing look. / may I steal a moment of your time? / he led her to the balcony. / standing side by side in the cool night breeze. Lavinia felt a jolt of surprise. Socializing is his lifeblood, yet. He abandoned his seat right when he was being crowned a hero. She asked slowly, "Is the matter so grave that we must speak in the shadows?" David's voice cut through the darkness. Earlier today, you did me a great service. I never imagined you possessed such hidden skills. Lavinia deflected. It was merely a coincidence. David continued, his tone serious. The assassin who plotted against you at the birthday banquet was Marshal Cobello. Lavinia's pupils constricted. What? The man known as the Iron-Blooded Cobello. He is the supreme commander of the military and a fanatical royalist. He holds the unshakable belief that only a man can sit upon the throne. Therefore, he detests women holding high status. Lavinia was incredulous. His worldview is so archaic, I am left speechless. The military thirsts for power. It is not impossible. After all, this kingdom still harbors Noah de Meldit. Is my own brother one of the suspects? David handed her a sleek black envelope. This is the intelligence I have gathered on Cobello. Find someone you trust implicitly to investigate further. And Lavinia's blue eyes flashed with sharp intellect as she studied him. David noticed her gaze. What is it? She shook her head slightly. Nothing. I was just curious about your motives for suddenly helping me. She gasped softly. Damn it. She had voiced her inner thoughts. He certainly isn't handing over intelligence out of the kindness of his heart. He must have an ulterior motive. David paused, the corner of his mouth curving into a faint smile. I simply dislike owing debts. Carrying the burden of a favor is unpleasant. However, I do enjoy it when others are indebted to me. Lavinia's smile turned meaningful. Is that simply your nature? David admitted it without shame. Indeed. I was born a commoner, after all. Please forgive my lack of aristocratic refinement. Lavinia chuckled softly. I don't mind. To be honest, I detest rigid formalities myself. She closed her eyes, her smile radiant under the moonlight. That means I can finally speak freely with you, does it not? David watched her, a flicker of confusion crossing his eyes. This woman. I didn't know she was capable of such a genuine smile. By the roadside, a man stood with crossed arms, his patience wearing thin. A magnificent carriage rolled slowly to a halt. Lavinia sat by the window, the sunlight tracing the delicate contours of her face. David stared at her profile, entranced. It was as if she belonged to a completely different world. Lavinia turned to leave. Shall we go? But David stepped in her path, blocking her way. She looked up at him, a spark of surprise in her eyes. What are you doing? David's voice dropped to a low, magnetic rumble. Just like this. Could you stay with me a little longer? Lavinia blinked. But why? David gazed deeply into her soul. Because. I hope you will come to trust me. A soft flush colored Lavinia's cheeks. If he was approaching her solely for the position of king consort, the intelligence report he provided earlier had already proven his sincerity. David lowered his gaze, his lashes casting long shadows. Then, that is good. He took a bold step forward, his voice dropping to a murmur. To speak the truth, I crave the title of king consort more than anyone in this nation, but right now, far more than that crown. I find myself captivated by you. Lavinia's pupils trembled. What do you imply? David's gaze remained unwavering, solid as a rock, exactly what my words suggest. Lavinia commanded herself to stay calm. Do not let him dictate the pace. She gently pushed against David's chest, creating distance. Not yet. I cannot trust you to that extent. David's hand snapped out, capturing hers. Winning a queen's heart is truly no simple feat. But this resistance, it only makes me desire the right to stand by your side even more. Suddenly, a powerful grip clamped around David's wrist, tearing him away from Lavinia. Duke Pandin stood there, his eyes cold as glacial ice. Cease this at once. I am warning you, if you commit one more act of disrespect toward Her Majesty, I will be forced to use violence to stop you. David stood his ground, unfazed by the interruption of their private moment. Isn't this rather rude? He smirked. Duke Pandin, your eyes are far too sharp. Her Majesty has already expressed her rejection. As her guardian, I simply obey the will of my liege. David finally released his grip. My apologies. It seems the wine has gone to my head. He turned back to Lavinia, placing a hand over his heart in a courtly bow. Please forgive my transgression, but I beg you, do not forget the feelings I laid bare tonight. As his figure disappeared behind the heavy doors, Lavinia closed her eyes and exhaled a long, shaky breath. Finally, she had dealt with him. She turned her gaze to the Duke. "Thank you, Pandin. Having you by my side gives me strength." Pandin placed a hand over his chest. "You praise me too highly." And Lavinia spoke softly. "There is no need for humility. Without you this morning, everything would have descended into chaos." Pandin looked up at the full moon hanging in the night sky. "Protecting your majesty is my divine mission. As for the matter regarding my brother-in-law and sister, I do not know how to repay you. If not for the Queen's grace, I dare not imagine the fate that would have befallen them." Lavinia's eyes grew complex. "I suppose I wouldn't want to imagine that scene either." Curiosity overtook her. To be able to slay such a colossal demon beast. "Where exactly did you learn your swordsmanship?" Pandin answered instantly. "It was my mother who taught me." The Pandin family is a prestigious lineage of martial arts. However, my father, who married into the family that had a gentle nature, thus, my sister and I endured hellish training under my mother's hand. Lavinia sighed softly. That must have been incredibly harsh. Pandin's eyes drifted to the past. "Yes. At 14, I was forced to inherit the title of Duke. Since then, I have fought across both the eastern and western fronts. The battlefield became my daily life. It was not until the day your majesty ascended the throne," Pandin's hand tightened on the hilt of his dagger, "that you appointed me as the knight commander. I know only the way of the sword. Aside from that, I have no talents. That is why I simply hope my sister can live a happy life." Lavinia tilted her head. He truly cared deeply for his family. She smiled warmly. "What a surprise. I did not know you possessed such a side." Pandin lowered his head slightly. "It is disrespectful to burden your majesty with such trivialities." Lavinia waved her hand dismissively. "Not at all." Bathed in the moonlight, her eyes sparkled with a gentle light. "To wish for another's happiness over your own. That is truly a beautiful virtue. You are more of a model big brother than I ever imagined." Pandin stared at her, a flicker of confusion passing through his gaze. In the original novel, the plot dictated that he hated Lavinia because his sister was killed. But now that the family grudge has vanished, I sense absolutely no killing intent from him. If this holds true, the probability of being murdered by Duke Pandin has dropped significantly. Meanwhile, in the noisy banquet hall, David whispered an order. "Proceed with that matter as usual." His subordinate confirmed. "Are you certain, my lord?" David nodded. "I am certain." He swirled his wine glass, the eyes behind his spectacles gleaming with sharp, arrogant confidence. "No one is more suited to be the king consort than I." Back on the balcony, Pandin stood before Lavinia. "Your Majesty." His voice turned grave. "Placing too much trust in the Prime Minister is dangerous. If not for today's incident, I believe he would have buried the news of the assassin. He also maintains uncomfortably close ties with the military." Lavinia's gaze darkened. "Indeed, between the Queen and the military commander, he is certainly weighing which side to appease." "We have no other choice. We can only skillfully monitor the Prime Minister's movements. It seems my position makes me an easy target. From this moment on, investigate every suspicious individual thoroughly." Pandin nodded in obedience. "Understood." Lavinia watched him closely. "He's protecting me with all his heart, but can I really just blindly trust him? What if he is the culprit? I would be betrayed all over again." A shiver ran through Lavinia. Pandin, sharp as a blade, noticed immediately. He asked with concern, "Are you all right?" Lavinia composed herself. "I am fine. Just a sudden chill. I am so glad he protects me. I want to rely on him. But for some reason, I simply cannot trust him from the bottom of my heart." Duke Pandin's eyes suddenly turned freezing cold. "Your Majesty does not trust me, do you?" Lavinia hurriedly denied it. "That is not it." Pandin's voice remained firm. "Even if that is the case, it does not matter." He suddenly unsheathed his dagger. Cold silver flashed in the dim light. Lavinia's pupils constricted in terror. "What are you doing? My life exists solely for your Majesty." "I shall prove it, my liege. Thank you for witnessing this journey to the very end."